Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Charles Sabanson, and welcome you guys to another episode of the Dreamers Pro Show, where we cover everything from sports, hot topics, classic debates, entertainment, and we give you guys a fresh perspective on things and how we see them. And today, we got a spicy show in store for you guys. But before we get into it, please make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel. Now, if you guys remember, about a month or so ago, there was this conversation that was taking place in sports media that was really centered on Caitlin Clark. And basically, we were trying to discern whether or not WNBA players were hating on Caitlin Clark for all of the attention and the fanfare and all of that she was getting. That was essentially what we were discussing. People were having this conversation in a more sophisticated format on television, but essentially that lied at the heart. That was at the heart of it. And one of the biggest moments in that story, in that saga, was a conversation that took place on ESPN First Take with Molly Karam, Stephen A. Smith, Monica McNutt, and Shannon Sharp. During that conversation, there was a moment where Monica McNutt essentially blindsided Stephen A. Smith by essentially saying that, look, you could have been doing more for the sport and all of that in terms of promoting it, and he was surprised by that. But then there was this thing of, there seems to be jealousy. People like Charles Barkley have pointed out jealousy from women towards her and all of that. And, women were pretty upset with that narrative because I guess it's a touchy thing when you say a woman is jealous of another woman. So there was all of these things that were happening. And then Monica McNutt subsequently came back on ESPN. She did another segment. But ever since then, we haven't really heard much from her on ESPN First Take. But then I came across an article yesterday on, from Awful Announcing, right? And it was a pretty interesting one because essentially, she was calling out Stephen A. Smith for the thing that he accused women of, which is jealousy. Now, some of you are like, okay, I need a little bit of a backstory here. I need a little bit of context. Okay. If you guys remember, about a year or so ago, Pat McAfee made headlines when the news came out that ESPN was going to be giving him about $85 million or so to come to ESPN. Made a lot of news. There were even like press conferences around it and all of that. And one of the people that was talking about this was Stephen A. Smith, right? Stephen A. Smith has made his positions 100% clear. Stephen A. Smith always wanted to be the top guy at ESPN. He wanted to be the highest paid at ESPN. But then something interesting happened. A shift took place within the sports media landscape where you saw these various personalities beginning to get these massive deals. And one of them was Pat McAfee when ESPN offered him that deal. Stephen A. Smith saw that, and people like Marcellus Wiley and others covered this, and he said, wait a minute. Matt McAfee is bringing in this audience, these numbers. I'm doing these type of numbers. So wait a minute. If he's able to get that number, I should be able to get a similar number. So what did Stephen A. Smith do? He began to ramp up his podcast, The Stephen A. Smith Show. Started doing it a lot because he was like, okay, wait a minute. If these guys are getting this kind of money out here, I need to get that kind of money. And he's always said this. It's not like as if I'm breaking any news here. He's always said this publicly, that he wants to get paid and he wants to make the most and all of that. He's always said this. And he's been kind of comparing the numbers that other guys are getting and then trying to see, okay, well, how can I get those numbers? Some people were saying there were murmurs of, not an altercation, but an argument that took place between Stephen A. Smith and Pat McAfee and all of that. And some people were basically wondering, was Stephen A. Smith jealous that ESPN was paying him more? So Stephen A. Smith then basically made it clear during his contract negotiations, according to reports, that he wanted to be the highest paid staff at ESPN, right? And the latest report we heard is that he wants to earn about $25 million per annum to ensure that he earns the most money. Well, essentially, this was what Monica McNutt was talking to. She's saying that you're saying women are jealous of Caitlin Clark, but you are jealous of other people in your industry that make just as much or more than you. And I was like, whoo, interesting. Those are the comments that we want to focus on. But before we even get into what Monica McNutt had to say on this Awful Announcing article, today's video is brought to you by our sponsor, PrizePicks, which is the largest daily fantasy sports platform in North America. Prize Picks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. Prize Picks makes it easy to get real money action on sports and players you love. Pick more or less on 2 or more players in any sport to win up to 100 times your entry fee. For example, here's a possible winning player projection lineup: Tyreek Hill for more than 90 receiving yards and Dak Prescott for more than 263 passing yards, Josh Allen for less than 240 passing yards, and CB Lamb for more than 96 receiving yards. And if you're like me and you want to play safe, you will love the new features Prize Picks invented: Flex Plays. Flex Pays are the safest way to play Prize Picks. You can still make a profit or win some money back even if a couple of your picks don't hit. On top of this, Prize Picks puts their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When my picks hit, I can get my money in as quick as 15 minutes. So download the Prize Picks app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code CLNS on Prize Picks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. And remember, whenever you support this sponsor, you're supporting this channel. Thank you. So let me get into what this article had to say here. It says, Monica McNutt calls out jealousy in Stephen A. Smith's contract negotiations with ESPN. Continues on. Monica McNutt insists she and Stephen A. Smith remain on good terms following an on-air argument early this year over First Take's coverage of the WNBA and women's sports. During a segment discussing Clark and how the WNBA and its players reacted to her arrival in the league as the #1 draft pick, McNutt took aim at Stephen A. Smith for not doing more to cover the W and other women's sports leagues sooner. But in a recent profile of Monica McNutt in the Washington Post, the ESPN commentator and New York radio game analyst took an interesting shot at Smith's looming contract negotiations with the worldwide leader. During their First Take clash, Smith insisted WNBA players were jealous of Clark and that the league should do more to protect its assets and Clark. In a Wall Street Journal, in a Washington Post profile, McNutt turned those accusations of jealousy back around on Smith. You mean to tell me that nobody in the NBA and NFL is jealous? McNutt asked at breakfast. Why is this thing that women can't be? Then McNutt added a kicker that cut directly at Smith's own jealousy as he seeks to become the highest paid talent at ESPN. The numbers he's going after because of Pat McAfee, Troy Aikman, and Joe Buck, he might say they're raising the market value, McNutt told the reporter. But at the bottom of that is, they're not about to get paid more than me. Sounds like jealousy to me, but I haven't seen it inside out too. Indeed, Smith has made no secret of his desire to out-earn ESPN's biggest stars and his belief that the market will prove his worth. Smith believes his podcast, First Take NBA coverage and coveted role in NFL broadcasts make him worth tens of millions to ESPN. And then it continues on, but it's one thing to believe that and another to point the finger at athletes who are jealous as if it's a bad thing. And then the article then goes on to say one or two other things. She brings up a interesting point. She brings up a very, 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 very interesting point, and it's an astute observation. Because we now have to figure out whether or not is jealousy in the case of the women, or is just Stephen A. Smith trying to strive to be the best in his own profession. Because he's definitely looking at what other people are making. And I think it's important that I say this. He's not the only one. Everybody's looking at what everybody else is making. I'm sure his ears perked up when he heard Shannon Sharp talk about he could potentially lose $170 to $200 million. I'm sure Stephen A. Smith sat back to himself and said, wait, what? He could earn $170, $102 million? Then, I got to go figure out. Okay. He said it before. He said it on his show on numerous occasions that he would love to enjoy the same success as Shannon Sharp and all of these other guys enjoy. Look, what are my thoughts on this? I think she makes a good point. I think she makes a point, and it's something I had never even thought about. she pointed it out. I never considered it. And this is the problem. This is the problem with comparing yourself to other people, right? This is a problem when comparing yourself to other people and trying to achieve the level of success that other people have. Why? Because your situation is different from theirs. Their situation is different from the next person, and so on and so forth. For you to try to get the same success somebody has, you would also have to mirror their circumstances, and you would also have to mirror the person. And how well are you going to mirror somebody else that's being themselves? How are you going to do it? So people have to come to terms with the reality that what you get may be a result of what you are and what you do. And what somebody else gets may be a result of who they are and what they do. That's number one. Number two, you also have to come to terms with the fact that some people are better at certain things than other people doing the same thing. Just the reality. Give you an example of this. There was something that we observe every day: basketball. You have 450 basketball players, but clearly there are those that do it better than others. So what are you going to do? Sit there and bemoan the fact that, oh man, I'm making $15 million a year, but Damian Lillard, for example, is making 30, and I need to figure out how to make 30. Yeah, but in the pursuit of you trying to figure out how to make 30, you also have to realize this guy is doing a particular thing. And if you do something that may not be deemed as valuable, as important as what that guy does, you're not going to get that. And you're going to live a very miserable existence trying to chase somebody else's success. I'm not saying that one should be complacent, but I think the worst thing to do is try to compare yourself to other people and say, oh, well, he has this, he has that. Well, he's him. And that guy might be looking at the next person saying, well, if he has this, well, the next guy has that. It's just a miserable existence to have, in my personal opinion. I think that you should try to be the best you can be, not try to be the best of somebody else. This is just my thought on it. I'm sure some people disagree. Whatever you guys think, please leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section. We'll catch you guys on the next show. Peace.